the Light of Truth radio broadcast with Michael Boldea.
All right, welcome to the program and thank you for joining us. This is the Light of Truth radio broadcast. I am, as always, your humble host, Michael Boldea, and it is good to be with you again. Another week has come and gone. No mushroom clouds off in the distance, but I think we're a little closer. Things have been happening as they always do. But before we get started, for the sake of posterity, today is October the 23rd, the year of our Lord, 2023. And we got about a week left to either see the chocolate pudding hitting the fan, or the government to reopen and issue people their much-awaited SNAP benefit, EBT cards, or whatever else you want to call it. I'm not trying to make light of this. I know some people are dependent on that. The issue is if government doesn't reopen and if the benefits don't get on those cards, there's going to be a lot of vultures. There are going to be a lot of opportunists. They're going to try to take advantage and do very dark things, because I'm not thinking that Aunt Trudy is going to be breaking windows and stealing purses or flat screens. If Aunt Trudy walks out of the Walmart with some adult diapers and maybe a half chicken, that's on her, but it's not going to be. She's not going to be the chaos agent. I think there are enough things that are lining up where if something doesn't break, the chaos agents are in the shadows, ready to spring forth, as it were. I heard a song once that keeps playing in my mind. I played chicken with a train. And that's pretty much what's happening here. The two sides are playing chicken. And I think that those on the Democrat side of this gamble are not realizing that if chaos breaks out, it's likely going to be in all of the cities that their contemporaries run. Every Democrat-run city, from Chicago to LA to New York, to even smaller ones like, I don't know, Milwaukee, Des Moines, Cleveland, will be utter chaos if them benefits don't get on them cards and people can't go buy their, licorice and Pringles, or I guess you're not allowed to buy junk food on them anymore, because I saw a lady almost weeping, just breaking down because she couldn't buy junk food with her benefits card anymore. Well, but it's, again, on the one side, you have the people that really need this, the people that depend on it. And I'm not talking about the ones that are, generational receivers of benefits. I'm not talking about the ones where, grandma, mom, and the daughter now with her kids are all on the benefits because getting a job is for the birds. I'm talking about the people that, are either, stuck at home, that are ill, that have some sort of disability that can't work, that need these things. I feel true empathy for those. And I think that if it is within your ability to reach out to someone that is in such a situation and offer to go buy them some groceries and offer to go buy them some food if this thing keeps dragging on, then by all means, I think it's a kind gesture and something kind to do. As for the people that think that the taxpayer is there to keep them from getting a job and to support their video game addiction, well, those are the people that are going to cause chaos. Those are the people that aren't going to go to the Piggly Wiggly and take a rump roast or a ham. They're going to go and use it as cover, do some really horrendous things. And I think that the mayors of the big cities in which this will occur will have to answer to their constituents, will have to answer to the business owners that will suffer because of this. So this is where we are as far as the internals are concerned. Now I'm just checking in. I've been busy, been doing lots of stuff. So is Trump still the Antichrist? Is my question. Because by what I read, the peace was supposed to last 3.5 years, not 3.5 hours. Because once that agreement was signed, everyone and their grandma was out and about. Oh, there it is. That's the sign. Here's the Antichrist. It lasted for 3 hours, if that. Like I said, if all we get out of it was the hostage release, then it's a win. It's a net positive. And I'm very glad that they were able to get those hostages released before the shooting started again. So just saying, it didn't last 3.5 years. It was probably 3.5 hours. So are we still on the same track, kids? Are we still, is he still the one? Because we went from that, and I love it how some people pivot from one thing to another. There's nothing that the big orange man can do that they can say was a net positive, something noble, or something good. Now the biggest outrage is that he is building a ballroom. And you know who else had a ballroom? That's right, Hitler. Hitler had a ballroom. Therefore, so Hitler also had hands and feet, and he had teeth and an Adam's apple. How far down this particular rabbit trail are we willing to go to insist that the man is still Hitlerian or Hitler or something to that effect? And again, my question is, because I know I'm riling up some people and I'm going to get the messages, and that's fine. I told my sister-in-law and a friend of mine from Romania the story of the duck and the water rolling off its back. I've been the duckling from whose back the water has rolled now for 30 odd years. So nasty messages don't bother me. I'm sorry. You're wasting your time. Go for a walk. Find somebody's dog to pet. I don't know. But still, is he Hitler or is he the Antichrist? Or is he both? Because I'm having a hard time keeping track here. Now, the entire theory of, oh, there's the peace agreement, kind of blew up because they're back at it as someone, I don't know who, I'm not willing to point fingers, but someone said any contract, any agreement, any ceasefire is only as good, lasting, and honorable as the individuals that are signing it. So I wouldn't put much hope in it. I remember saying those words just a couple of weeks ago. I also warned of the chaos that may ensue when people go to their favorite grocer, fill up a cart, and there is no dinero on the old EBT. I know back in the day there used to be food stamps. It's something you held in your hand, and so you could just rip them out of the book. I've seen people do it. Now it's no longer that. The digital age is upon us, so there are no longer physical food stamps that people can barter with or sell. Wink, wink. And look, I know of restaurant owners who purchase food stamps or EBT cards for about 50, 60 cents on the dollar. And that's how they buy the food that they cook and sell for an upcharge to the people that go sit in their booths. So it's neither here nor there. I'm just saying it's not all above board. Not every person that gets benefits really needs them. Some of them are able-bodied. Most of them are able-bodied and can work. They just refuse to do it because, hey, free money, free money. But if the free money isn't there, once you've gotten used to it, once you've gotten a taste of it, once it's something that has been repeating without cessation for 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, when it's not there, some people having an IQ equivalent to room temperature will lash out in a violent fashion. They'll try to steal the stuff. And it's the easiest way to bring about chaos. And if they don't do something within the next week, I think we're going to see that play out, especially in some of the bigger cities in these United States. So for whatever it's worth, my 2 cents would be have a few days food on hand just in case going to the store becomes one of those impossibilities or becomes a dangerous prospect for you. So keep that in mind. It's only 7-8 days away from November 1st. And I think if something is going to spark off, if chaos will ensue, nobody's going to wait until the 5th or 6th of the month. People have no patience anymore. And so if they don't remedy this, if government doesn't reopen, then we're bound to see some very interesting times. Now, internationally speaking, the Trump administration has decided to apply more pressure on Russia, hoping for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Now, all you need to do in order to understand how effective this will be is the fact that Volodymyr Zelensky praises the effort, because the UN or the European Union did the same as the Trump administration did shortly after. I don't think it's going to phase the Russians. I believe it's counterproductive because the Russians are a people that know how to survive. They've been sanctioned for the last 3-4 years, and apparently nobody's starving in Russia. They may have to eat potatoes and cabbage more often than they'd like. The McDonald's and the Starbucks aren't quite as open as they used to be. But then again, all that means is that you're giving the Russian citizen a chance at a longer life. If you eliminate McDonald's from any nation, you're likely giving them a 5 to 10 year shelf life as far as life expectancy. I'm not saying McDonald's is bad. I'm just saying it's poison. Anyway, just my 2 cents. I had a conversation with a dad during one of my daughter's latest volleyball games because they had their tournament. Victoria is on the volleyball team. She's a tall kid like her mama. She's probably going to be a good 6 foot by the time it's all said and done. And she's gotten really good at volleyball. And so they were having their tournament last Saturday. And there was about a 1 hour wait time between games. And so I was just having a conversation with one of the dads. And he almost called me a liar to my face when I told him that neither of my daughters had ever eaten at McDonald's. It was something that he could not wrap his mind around. It was something that if I told him I'd seen Bigfoot doing the jig with a space alien, he likely would have believed me more than he believed the fact that my daughters had never eaten at McDonald's. And so while Dad is a fan of the gas station grilled cheeses, while Dad grew up on a consistent diet of 25-cent burgers at a place called the Wiener Schnitzel. I know, it doesn't make sense to me either. But in California, I see story time with Mike. You're welcome. The world is burning. The nation is about to enter chaos. And here we are talking about Mike's experiences at the Wiener Schnitzel when he was 12 years old. Well, this is what you come here for. You think I'm going to zig, right? Boom. I zig left. Anyway, when we first got to America, it took a while for us to get our first car. And it was one of those station wagons with the suicide door in the back, where it had just one bench seat that faced traffic. And because there were 4 adults and the back bench was empty all the time, we'd get bustled into the back. And what's worse is that the window of the suicide door in the back could go down. So it opened sideways, then you could put the window down. And I guess people have always been people. So the joy of many drivers was to speed up when they saw our heads bobbing over the window trying to scare us that they were going to hit us. Anyway, about 10 minutes drive from where we lived in the beautacious Fullerton, California, there was a Wiener Schnitzel that had a weekly special on Saturdays. You could get a 25-cent cheeseburger, and it was unlimited quantities. So for $25, you could basically get 100 cheeseburgers. Granted, back then, I think they were still beef adjacent. I don't know if they were all beef, but there must have been some part of the cow in those patties. I don't think they'd gone to the extreme that they have recently where, you try to give a dog a McDonald's cheeseburger and he's staring at you. I'm not putting that in my body. So back then, at least there was some part of the cow. I don't know what it was, but it was 25 cents. And so every week on Cheeseburger Day, as it came to be known in the Boldea household, my mom and dad would pack us into the station wagon and we'd go to the Wiener Schnitzel, and my mom would lay down a $10 bill and get as many cheeseburgers as she could for that price, and we would feast. So I can't say that I didn't have cheeseburgers growing up. My kids eat cheeseburgers, but they're all homemade. My wife insists on it. We buy the meat. We grill it ourselves. My wife makes sourdough buns. I know you're thinking to yourself, you must be the luckiest man alive. Close to it. I'm still waiting for her to take that next step where she crosses the line, and that straw that breaks the camel's back where she insists that she wants to sew our clothes like the Amish do. But until then, I'm having fun watching her. So we did. I mean, we had, it wasn't McDonald's because McDonald's was pricey even back then for our budget as a family. But we did have the 25-cent Wiener Schnitzel burgers consistently. Things have changed. Times have changed so that if you think it will make the Russian people revolt against Vladimir Putin, the fact that you took away McDonald's or that you took away Starbucks, I think you got a long wait ahead of you. So these new sanctions are intended to get Russia to agree to a ceasefire. There's still talks ongoing about the big orange man and Vladimir Putin meeting in, Budapest, to discuss terms. And of course, Volodymyr Zelensky said, hey, I'd be glad to show up too. Again, another thing that I think would be counterproductive, because whoever is pulling the strings of the current administration in Ukraine, and especially the strings of Vladimir Zelensky, don't want to see this war end. We've discussed this ad nauseum. I'm not going to get into it again, but there are powers and there are players that do not want to see this conflict ending, no matter the cost in lives, no matter the cost in loss, no matter the cost in bloodshed, because they have an agenda, they have a purpose, and they will continue to execute upon their purpose, whether others agree with it or not. So, President Donald Trump announced Wednesday that his administration is raising sanctions on Russia in a pressure campaign to bring a close to the Russia-Ukraine war. Trump shared a press release from his Treasury Department late Wednesday afternoon announcing additional sanctions on Russia's top oil companies. The Treasury is placing open joint stock company Rosneft Oil and Lukoil under sanctions laid out in Executive Order 14024 for operating or having operated in the energy sector of the Russian Federation economy. Today, the U.S. Department of Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control is imposing further sanctions as a result of Russia's lack of serious commitment to peace to end the war in Ukraine, the release begins. Today's actions increase pressure on Russia's energy sector and degrade the Kremlin's ability to raise revenue for its war machine and support its weakened economy, it continues. Dozens of the company's subsidiaries are also being sanctioned, including those involved in exploration, development, production, and refinement. Companies in which Rosneft and Lukoil own over 50% stake are blocked, it specifies. Now is the time to stop the killing and for the immediate ceasefire, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said in the press release. Given President Putin's refusal to end this senseless war, Treasury is sanctioning Russia's two largest oil companies that fund the Kremlin's war machine. And of course, the Russians have responded. It didn't take long. When was it? Today, October the 23rd. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova responded to the U.S. Treasury Department's latest round of sanctions against Russia Oil on Thursday by dismissing them as irrelevant, claiming Russia will not face any particular problems. No, because there's always going to be buyers for oil. There will always be buyers. There will always be nations that will try to skirt any sanctions in order to get their hands on cheaper oil. And the funny thing is, the sad, tragic thing, however, whatever adjective you want to place on it, is that those self-same nations that find a way around the sanctions come back and sell the oil to the nations that are imposing the sanctions for a markup. So they make a little money, the Russians make a little money, and the average citizen of the nations imposing the sanctions pay a little more at the pump. Because, hey, sanctions have consequences. I think oil prices just popped again because of these new sanctions. Personally, I went and filled up my car and my wife's car the moment I heard that this was happening, and I got a sweet deal on a gallon of gas. I don't know what it's going to be in about a week, but we shall see. Zakharova commended the sanctions, or condemned. She didn't commend them, no, because if she would have commended them, well, she'd be visiting Siberia and should be handed a shovel as a warming present. No, she condemned the sanctions as extremely counterproductive. I hadn't even read this article, but if you understand the Russian mindset, you understand that her reaction is closer to the truth than the reality of what is trying to be spun by certain nations of the world. Yes, I do believe that these sanctions are counterproductive in the long term. It just gives Zelensky more oxygen to try to convince European nations and others to put boots on the ground, because the man has dreams. Some might call them fantasies, but I would not put it outside of his vision board. I know we're using modern day terms. I don't have one. Nobody I know has one, because people I tend to hang around with are practical people. So vision boards are for those that enjoy soy instead of real milk, and whose diet is consisting of tofu and, I don't know, squirrel scat, whatever. But I'm sure that Mr. Zelensky, given his history, given his previous experience with the arts and artistic people, likely has a vision board. And on his vision board somewhere, I'm sure there's getting rid of Vladimir Putin altogether, and maybe him being made president of Russia, because that would be cool. Never going to happen. Again, Russians still showing restraint. For how long? Only the good Lord knows. I, for one, get the feeling that they're running out of patience, because what the Ukrainians want, what Zelensky wants, what Europe wants, isn't going to happen. There will not be any ceasefire if they're unwilling to bend or make any concessions. The Russians do not want the European Union or NATO anywhere near their border. They don't want Ukraine to join the European Charter. And they're likely not going to give up much of the territory they've already taken. That's just common sense warfare. Our people died and bled to win this territory. I ain't giving it back without a fight. Again, not good, not bad, just realistic. Sometimes there are no good guys in a situation. We've discussed that. We've talked about it. But like I said, Zakharova condemned the sanctions as extremely counterproductive, particularly in the context of President Donald Trump announcing plans for meetings with Putin intended to find an end to the latter's ongoing invasion of neighboring Ukraine. She nonetheless claimed the country has endured years of sanctions and its economy is properly isolated, such as to not feel the pain of elevated sanctions as much as it once did. None of this is a lie. Like I said, the only thing that they've done to think they've hurt the Russian people was closing down McDonald's or Gucci or whatever American company thinks that is indispensable. The Russians kept on being Russians. They kept on surviving. They lived. So I don't think any more added pressure is going to get the deal done. And that's just my opinion. My 2 cents. I guess it's not even 2 cents anymore because they're doing away with the penny. So my nickel. Now it's got to be 5 cents. We've upped the ante. We consider this step to be extremely counterproductive, Zakharova told reporters, but we will not face any particular problems in connection with the above-mentioned decision by the U.S. Treasury Department. Our country has developed a strong immunity to Western restrictions and will continue to confidently develop its economic and political potential, she claimed. The spokeswoman went on to compare the sanctions to actions taken by former American President Jose Biden, warning, if the current U.S. administration follows the example of its predecessors and tries to force Russia to compromise its national interests through illegal sanctions, the result will be the same. Failure from a domestic political point of view and a negative impact on global economic stability. Well, the legality of the sanctions and whether they are legal or illegal is her opinion. I think every nation feels it's within its rights to sanction any other nation. I think that if we were going to say that sanctions or tariffs are illegitimate or illegal, this administration would have a hard time implementing its plan. So there's that. So there's a nugget of truth in what she said. There's also a self-serving, I'm not going to call it a lie. Let's just call it an omission. The foreign ministry spokeswoman nonetheless emphasized that sanctions aside, Moscow was hoping to continuing conversations with the White House regarding Ukraine, which have so far proven entirely fruitless. Indeed. Ask yourself why. Because there are powers and players and people that were promised lots and lots of money to keep this thing going. Missiles aren't cheap. Never mind tomahawks. And I'm sure that somebody somewhere over a steak dinner intimated, if not outright offered, a substantial bonus if they could somehow manage to compel this current administration to keep sending weapons and weaponry because, well, eventually you run out and you have to build more. And inflation being what it is, we can't sell you tomahawks for what we sold them to you in 2016. That's just ridiculous. We'd be losing money. So add another zero, baby. In the end, when it's all said and done, it's not about idealism. It's about money. Now, when it comes to what's happening in the U.S., I think that, look, it happened over and over again to the point that you realize it's either the overarching pressure and influence of human nature, or that there have been people in the shadows pulling the strings for generations now. Because the people in the shadows that are currently financing the idealists that are going around thinking that they're going to change the world, the young college people that want to do away with fascism, those people aren't idealistic. Those people understand that there will be a profit at the end of all this if they happen to win. The college students that are getting maced and pepper sprayed and tased, they're likely idealists. They want to see an end to this supposed fascism. I'm sorry. If you still think you're living in a fascist country, you don't understand the definition of fascism. The fact that criminals are being taken off the streets isn't fascism. It's protecting. Excuse me. See? Look at that. Was that a mosquito or a fly? I don't know, but I just had myself a snack. Let me take a sip of my now tepid coffee. And no, I don't think the devil did it. All right, because look at that. The devil made a fly into your mouth. It wasn't the devil. It was just a fly. Maybe it saw a snack itself. There you go. So let's just take a step back. The devil isn't everywhere doing everything. Sometimes a fly is just dumb enough to fly into your mouth. And again, I got a nice snack out of it. It tastes like a McDonald's burger now that I think about it. So allow me to sip from my delicious beverage, and we shall continue down this journey of wisdom and understanding. Of course, I jest, but this is why you're here. I don't know why you're here. I'm still befuddled that people listen to me just ranting for an hour, but here we are. I'm sure that at some point there will be some gem that will spill out of my mouth, but I'm not guaranteeing it. I'm not an American prophet. I can't guarantee a personal word of prophecy for everybody that pays the $300. See, now I hit somebody. Now somebody's going to start typing away. How dare you? Oh, by the way, for those of you that don't read the blog or don't have Facebook, there is a book in the works that I think will upset everyone. It's an equal opportunity offender. And the working title of the book that I've just finished outlining is Prophecy, Prophets, Jesters, and Fools. And when I get it done, I'll let you know. But oh, doggy, what I have outlined so far, I don't think I'll have any friends left other than my wife and kids. And that's okay, because I love my wife and kids and they love me. It's almost as unconditional as the dog. So there's that. But let me sip from my delicious beverage and we shall continue. Oh, see, it's tepid now. It's not even hot anymore. And I made it myself. My brother was in the office. He was busy on a call, so I could not insist upon his kindness to press the buttons for me. So I made myself my own coffee. I know that's not very presidential of me. It's not very chairman-like. But then again, nothing about me is. Let's just be honest. I'm just a guy who's doing what God told him to do. And I have no aspirations or hopes of being served by others. My duty is to serve. I do so to the best of my ability. And, that's that. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced on Wednesday that it would expand its sanctions regime on Russia to include sectors of some of Russia's most lucrative oil companies. We went through that. Their explanation for this is, given President Putin's refusal to end this senseless war, Treasury is sanctioning Russia's two largest oil companies. The caveat here is a little more nuanced. It's President Putin's refusal to end this senseless war on their terms, on either the U.S.'s terms or the European Union's terms. Because I I do believe that Russia wants to see an end to this. I don't think that their pride will allow them to see an end to it based on the terms of any other nation but their own. I think there is some wiggle room. I think they're willing to make certain concessions, but not to the extent that is being demanded of, everyone else, U.S., the UN, the EU. The Chinese don't care. The Chinese are doing their thing, but we have issues, I think, closer to home. And one of the issues that I think is going to become very important, especially going forward, is it mayoral or gubernatorial race of New York? One of the two. I guess, see, Gino, I mean, he's got his finger on the pulse of politics. I can't say the same for myself, but Gino's kids are all grown. They're out of the house. He doesn't have to make breakfast at 6:30 in the morning. He doesn't have to, make sure they did their homework. So I understand Gino's more in tune and in the know than myself. But there is a man that we discussed. And nobody was paying him much attention when we discussed him because, well, he didn't really have a chance. Well, apparently, now he's the front runner. His name is Zohran Mamdani, or Mamdani, whatever it is. He is a man who is, by all accounts, a communist. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Oh, he's a socialist. He just wants equality for everyone. No, he's a commie. He's a commie with a Muslim bend. And apparently, he's going to win. He's going to be the next mayor of New York City. So if you didn't think New York City had enough problems as it is, wait till the communist mayor takes office. Now, people have finally started waking up to the reality of who this individual is. I think it's too little, too late. The latest is that more than 650 rabbis warned Wednesday, which was yesterday, that electing Democratic Socialist frontrunner Zohran Mamdani would endanger the safety and dignity of Jews in every city, citing his refusal to condemn globalize the Intifada, denial of Israel's legitimacy, and genocide claims, according to a letter published by the Jewish Majority, which I'm assuming is a newspaper. So let me just say this. Back in the day, when I was traveling with my grandfather, and the crux of his message was that communists would begin an internal revolution in these United States, most of the reactions, most of the time, were that of incredulity. Some of the people who'd heard his entire testimony thought he had PTSD. They just, oh, shucks. They felt sorry for him because, well, he sees communists everywhere now. Well, apparently, 40 odd years later, a communist is about to become the mayor of New York. So it's just something worth pointing out because there are times in your life when God will show you something or speak something to you that makes no logical sense in the present or in the physical. We're talking about the country that had open hearings about communists and communism on the floor of the Senate. We're talking about the country that stood against communism and fought a war over it, cold or otherwise, and that understood the poison that it is. And so within that context, saying the words that my grandfather said admittedly seemed ridiculous. Admittedly, it seemed like he had a bone to pick with communism because they persecuted him, so everybody's communist now. 40 years later, it's becoming a literal reality. A communist will be the mayor of the biggest and most important city of these United States. And I think that the rabbis, the 650 rabbis that penned this letter, have every reason to be concerned, have every reason to be trepidatious, because the thing about communists, once they take power, they're never nicer than you thought they would be. They're never less toxic than you thought they would be. They're never less confrontational than you thought they would be. They're never less tyrannical than you thought they would be. So, even with all the warning signs that this individual is putting out, you need to understand that he's trying to tamp down his true nature. He's trying to put his best foot forward. He's trying to seem as undangerous as possible. Once power is attained, that's when he can let his freak flag fly. That's when he can reveal himself for what he is without having to mask it in order to get elected. That's the best way I can put it. So for all of those in the Jewish community that think Mr. Mamdani is dangerous, unfortunately, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because when and if this man does become the mayor of New York, that's when you're going to see his true colors. Quoting New York Board of Rabbis President Rabbi Amiel Hirsch, the letter warned that such rhetoric delegitimizes the Jewish community and encourages and exacerbates hostility towards Judaism and Jews, crossing a line from policy debate to community harm. Rabbi Elliot Cosgrove of Park Avenue Synagogue, also cited in the letter, said Zionism and Jewish self-determination are inseparable strands of Jewish identity. Zionism, Israel, Jewish self-determination, these are not political preferences or partisan talking points, he said. They are constituent building blocks and inseparable strands of my Jewish identity. Well, sir, as the saying goes, the people have spoken, or they soon will speak, and the consequences will be evident to one and all. And even then, even when we see the failure of socialism and communism in real time in our own country, in the biggest city in the U.S., by someone everyone deemed an intellectual powerhouse, there will be those that will clamor for it. There will be those that will insist that socialism or communism is not the best way, but the only way forward. These are scary times, especially if you happen to live in New York currently. It's not going to end here. It can't end here, because to a certain segment of the population, especially to the young, and by the young I mean those of college age between 18 and 30. The idea of from each according to their ability to each according to their need is very seductive. What they don't understand is that not everyone can have a handout expecting some ethereal, each according to their ability, to fill their fridge and give them stuff. Eventually, and that's the thing that has happened in every communist country, whether small or great. Eventually, those people in power, once they attained power, had to fess up and admit that it's impossible to run a nation or a city based on the precept of from each according to their ability to each according to their need. And so, guess what? Everybody had to work. Everybody had to show up. Whether you had anything to do or not, every single factory in communist-run Romania was full every single day by laborers, by employees. So those dreaming that they'll be at home sitting on the couch playing video games and, I don't know, Amazon will airdrop their food for the week are fooling themselves. This is the illusion that they have to put forth in order to get people to vote for them. Once they're voted in, they don't need to maintain the illusion anymore. They no longer have to pretend that they're not totalitarian. They no longer have to pretend that they want to be the ones in power while everyone else will be subservient to them. Now, another thing that I noticed, and we discussed this individual, and I think that by the grace of the good Lord, this individual's brain impairment has been healed over time. Because when John Fetterman became, a senator? When John Fetterman became a senator and he couldn't put two words together, I remember discussing him on the radio program, and I said, it's kind of a low bar. Well, apparently John Fetterman, with his issues, has more understanding of the current political climate than the old dogs that are insisting we should keep it closed forever. Senator John Fetterman last night expressed his opposition to the government shutdown led by congressional Democrats. And this is the narrative that needs to be established, and this is the talking point that needs to be hammered in every state that has a major city. This is not a Republican shutdown. This is a Democrat shutdown. Because it is the things they are demanding in order to reopen government are ludicrous. The things they are demanding in order to reopen government are exactly all the things that were taken out of the budget a year ago. All these pet projects, all of these NGOs that keep pushing homosexuality and transgenderism to third world nations. This is what they want funded again. And here is Senator John Fetterman. Like I said, I remember when he was debating and he'd glitch. I remember when he couldn't put two words together to save his life. I felt sad for the man. I mean, look at it. This is abusing someone with an issue. Well, apparently the good Lord saw it fit to heal this man and make him the most reasonable member of the Democrat Senate. He expressed his opposition to the government shutdown led by congressional Democrats. He said he was not afraid of the consequences and that he would not lie about it or say it's the right thing to do. While being interviewed, he was asked, how do you interpret Chuck Schumer when we've played montages on this program of him over the course of his entire career speaking out against a government shutdown, and now he's made the decision to do it. You came under heavy criticism when this happened back earlier in the year, as he did. But now he's changed course. Do you believe he's catering to a rise of radicalism in your party? Do you see a rise of radicalism in your ranks? And Fetterman replied, I mean, I don't know what his views are. I'll of course respect whatever his views are, but I'm not afraid to tell my truth. And if I'm going to pay a penalty, I'm not afraid of that. It's wrong to shut down our government. And then if I lose some support within the base, well, I'm going to be honest, and I'll be the Democrat to refuse to lie to the base and just say that it's the right thing to shut down government and create these kinds of things. I want to extend these tax credits and make health insurance more affordable, but I also refuse to vote to suspend SNAP for millions of Pennsylvanians in my state and across the entire nation. I refuse to do those things, he added. So here's John Fetterman, of all people, sounding more reasonable than anyone else on the left. And they're already planning his ouster. Because when they got on board to elect this man as senator, they thought they had a puppet they could control as easily as everyone else. And apparently he's broken ranks. And you can do a lot of things being a Democrat, especially being a Democrat senator. You can lie, you can cheat, you can commit crimes and get away with them. But the one thing that you cannot do, the one thing that is anathema, is breaking ranks, is having your own nuanced opinion. You take your marching orders and you march, buddy. What's Schumer or Pelosi saying? You got to parrot the same exact words with the same exact cadence no matter what. So I think if they want to end this for the next 7 days, every single Republican senator and congressperson needs to hammer home the point that this is a Democrat shutdown. Because the constituents, especially the constituents in major cities, are only loyal to benefits. They're not loyal to their party. They're not loyal to their congressperson. They're not loyal to their senator. They're loyal to these people because they get something out of it. I know, ask not what your country can do for you. Well, we saw what happened to that guy. So a lot of the base that the Democrat Party is dependent upon, if the messaging is clear enough wherein the people realize their own party did it, I don't think those individuals will be able to walk down the streets of their cities or their states without getting Rotten Tomatoes thrown at them. So it'll be an interesting week. I think we've still got 1 day before shutdown on next week's program. So we will likely discuss this then. So it's 8 days. I think October has 31 days from my recollection. And come November 1st, when you go try to use that SNAP, the teller will snap back. We take cash or credit. And there's already people posting themselves on YouTube declaring shamelessly, well, if I don't get my benefits, I'm just going to steal it. I'm just going to walk into the store, fill my cart. If the cart doesn't work, I'm going to walk out. Look, it's inevitable that if this occurs, violence will ensue. It's inevitable that someone will try to stop somebody, that somebody will pull a gun, and it's just going to escalate from there. So I'm hoping that cooler heads prevail. I'm hoping that the Democrats realize they're not going to get what they want. But then again, I think they're cornered. I think the elites, because there's two kinds of people in both parties. I'm not going to just say, oh, the Republicans. No, there's two kinds of people in both parties. There are those who finance the campaigns. There's the money people in the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. And those money people in the Democrat Party see what's happening and they go, oh, finally a little courage, finally a little boldness. Then there's the peons. There's the individuals that, paycheck to paycheck, live their lives and whatnot. And they see this for what it is, and they're scratching their heads going, this can't possibly help the nation move forward. So the only question that remains unanswered is, who will they pander to more? Will it be to the majority of the paycheck to paycheck individuals that depend on a salary, that depend on their SNAP benefits? Or will it be to those financing their campaigns and their cushy lives, who've likely already planned for them to have some sort of position on some sort of board once they leave the Senate? And depending on how loud the peons get, I think they're going to go with the financiers. If the peons get too loud, then they're going to have no choice. So again, we shall see. It'll be a fun and interesting week or so. And then come November, we'll be cooking with gasoline, kiddos, one way or another. Anyway, that's my hour. I'm going to go see if there's another fly. I'm getting a little hungry. But that is the program for the day. I'm going to give Gino a couple of minutes, as I always do. But thank you all for your prayers. Please keep my brother Daniel and his wife in your prayers. Pray for comfort. Issue that I'm not going to discuss, but just keep them in your prayers. Prayers help. Prayers are necessary. The children of God need to be able to lean on each other and pray for each other. Next week, we shall be with you again. Hopefully, sans fly. But if not, free snacks are free snacks. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, is what the kids like to say. Me, I thank the fly for sacrificing itself for my nourishment. Until next week, God bless you. God keep you. We'll talk again. Gino, it's on you, buddy.
All right, Mike. Well, you had 1 gram of protein. Anyways, Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. Trust the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all thy ways, and he'll direct your path. And right now, in this hour, we need to rely on the Lord. Yes, God uses people. As Mike said, if you're able to help a neighbor, I would urge it. Last night, my neighbor came to church, and a few days ago, she was suffering with a lung infection. She was outside, and I decided to pray for her. She was actually crying. And last night, she came to church. And so, love your neighbor. Do good to them that even persecute you. And show the love of God in actions, not just word. Everything has purpose when you do it in the name of the Lord. And people are hurting. We operate a big food pantry in our town. And we help a lot of people in Jesus' name. And here at Hand to Help, years ago, we had a huge food pantry. And they came through, I think, once or twice a week. It got too big. We ultimately moved it. But help your neighbor. Show the love of Jesus in action. Thank you for listening to The Light of Truth.
Thank you for listening to today's broadcast, The Light of Truth, with Michael Boldea. If you would like to order a copy of today's broadcast, please visit our website at handofhelp.com. If you have questions about our ministry, you can email us at handofhelpoffice@aol.com or simply call us at 920-206-9910. God bless you.
They are all leaving.